Tuesday morning, coffee going cold on my desk. The usual flood of LinkedIn notifications, connection requests from junior associates hoping to network their way up, recruiters dangling senior partner positions at competing firms, automated congratulations on work anniversaries I didn't remember. Then one message request that made my hand freeze on the mouse. Sender, Leo Rowan. The profile picture was a photograph I hadn't seen in 23 years. Me at 22, standing outside the university library, hair too long and unkempt, wearing that faded Princeton sweatshirt with a hole in the left sleeve. I was smiling like I knew something the world didn't. Arrogant, unfinished, young. The message was 4 words. Thanks for raising me. I stared at the screen. Read it again. Again. I'm 45 years old, senior partner at Morrison Chen and Associates, one of the top corporate law firms in Manhattan. I bill $850 an hour. I've never been married. I have no children. A medical condition in my 30s confirmed what I'd always suspected. I'm sterile. Always have been. So this message made absolutely no sense. My first rational thought, elaborate scam, some new form of identity theft or social engineering. I'd seen cases like this, con artists creating fake family connections to extract money or information. But the photo, that specific photo, I clicked on Leo Rowan's profile with my heart hammering in a way it hadn't since my last trial. Leo Rowan, lead graphic designer at Apex Solutions, Rhode Island School of Design, class of 2024, based in Portland, Oregon, 20 years old, according to his graduation date. Born around 2004. 23 years ago was 2002, the year Sarah left me. Apex Solutions. I knew that name. Everyone in tech circles knew that name. Sarah Chin's company. My ex-girlfriend from college. The woman who disappeared from my life without explanation. Who transformed herself from a struggling computer science major into a tech mogul worth hundreds of millions. The math was simple, brutal, impossible to ignore. If this kid was 20 years old, he was conceived 21 years ago, the exact time Sarah vanished from my life. I looked at his photo, his actual profile picture, not the one of me. Dark hair, sharp cheekbones, Sarah's eyes, unmistakably, but the jawline, the slight widow's peak, the way he held his head, that was all from the face I shaved every morning. My phone was in my hand before I decided to pick it up. Sarah's number was still there, buried under emergency contacts, a relic I'd never had the courage to delete, like keeping a bookmark in a book you'd never finish reading. I pressed call. She answered on the second ring. Mark, not a question, just my name, spoken in that same crisp, controlled voice I remembered from decades ago. He found you, I said, my voice coming out hoarse. A kid, Leo, on LinkedIn. I know, she said calmly. He told me he was going to reach out. Sarah. I was gripping the phone so hard my knuckles were white. Is he mine? The pause lasted 3 seconds. 3 seconds that felt like falling. Biologically? Yes, he's yours. The office spun. 20 years. She'd kept a secret for 20 years. Why didn't you tell me? The words came out as a whisper. Because you weren't ready to be a father, Mark. You were barely ready to be an adult. I wanted to argue, wanted to rage at her for making that decision unilaterally, for stealing 20 years of my son's life. But the honest truth stopped the words in my throat. She was right. 22-year-old Mark Callahan had been a disaster. Brilliant. Yes, top 5% of my law school class. Already courted by prestigious firms. But brilliant in the way a fire is brilliant. Impressive, consuming, ultimately destructive. I drank too much. Scotch in the afternoon, bourbon at night, whatever was available in between. I had a temper that could turn a casual disagreement into a screaming match. I was arrogant, convinced that my intelligence entitled me to treat people however I wanted. Sarah had been the only good thing in my life, and I'd treated her like an accessory to my inevitable success. The message he sent me, I said, pulling myself back to the present. He said, thanks for raising me. Sarah, I didn't raise him. I didn't even know he existed. Another pause. When she spoke again, her voice had changed softer, almost regretful. That's not entirely true, Mark. You did raise him, or rather, the idea of you did. What the hell does that mean? It means that for the last 20 years, my husband has been sending Leo money, $2,000 a month, every month, birthday cards, graduation gifts, all signed with your name. The world tilted again. Your husband? Robert? Yes, Robert Chen, Sarah's husband, the CFO of Apex Solutions, a man I'd never met but whose name appeared in business journals alongside hers. They'd married when Leo was about 5 years old. Why would he do that? I asked, though pieces were already clicking together in my mind. Because Leo needed a father, and I couldn't. I couldn't tell him the truth, that his biological father was someone I'd run away from, someone who scared me. That hit like a physical blow. I scared you? Yes. No hesitation. You were drinking a fifth of bourbon every few days. You punched a hole in your apartment wall during an argument about where to eat dinner. You told me I was wasting my time with computer science, that I should focus on supporting your career instead. Each memory was a knife, because I remembered them all, and they were exactly as she described. When I found out I was pregnant, she continued, I knew I had two choices, tell you and watch you either reject us or try to be a father while you were still essentially a child yourself, or leave, start over, give Leo a chance at a stable life. So you chose to lie to him about who his father was. No, I chose to give him a father he could be proud of. Robert found that old photo of you, the one I'd kept in a box. We created a story. You were a brilliant lawyer who'd loved me in college. We'd split up for complicated reasons, but you'd never abandoned your son. You sent money every month. You wrote to him. You expected greatness from him because you were great yourself. I felt sick. You made me into a fairy tale. We made you into the man you could have been. Sarah corrected. And it worked, Mark. Leo excelled in school. He graduated top of his class from RISD. He's talented, driven, thoughtful. He spent his entire life trying to live up to the standards of the father in that photograph. I need to meet him, I said. No, Sarah, he's my son. He's my son, she interrupted, her voice sharp. You contributed DNA. Robert and I raised him, fed him, clothed him, sat up with him when he was sick, taught him to ride a bike, helped him with homework, attended every school play and art show and parent-teacher conference. Don't you dare reduce fatherhood to genetics. She was right, again. But it didn't stop the ache in my chest. Then why did you let him reach out to me? I asked, a long exhale on the other end of the line. Because he's 20 years old. He's not a child anymore. He has questions. He wanted to connect with you. And Robert and I, we decided we couldn't keep lying to him. Not forever. Does he know the truth? That I never sent the money? Never wrote the cards? No. And I'm asking you, begging you not to tell him. You want me to lie to him? I want you to think about what's best for him. He's built his entire identity around the idea that his father believed in him, that you sacrificed being present in his life to support him financially, that you were watching from a distance, proud of everything he accomplished. But none of that is true. It's true in every way that matters, Sarah said. The money was real. The encouragement was real. The expectations were real. The only thing that's different is whose signature was on the checks. I sat back in my chair, staring at the LinkedIn message still open on my screen. Thanks for raising me. What happens now? I asked quietly. That's up to you, Sarah said. Leo wants to meet you. He's in New York next week for a design conference. He wants to have dinner. He wants to thank his father for everything. And if I tell him the truth, then you destroy him. You take away every foundation he's built his life on. You turn his mother into a liar and his stepfather into, I don't even know what, a con artist? A well-meaning fraud? He deserves to know the truth. The truth, Sarah said, her voice hard, is that children need parents who love them and support them. Leo had that. He has that. The truth is that biology doesn't make you a father. Being there does. Robert has been his father in every way that counts. Are you really going to take that away from him just to, what? Assuage your own guilt? Feel like you have some claim to him? I didn't have an answer. Meet him if you want, Sarah said. But think very carefully about what you say, because whatever you decide, you can't undo it. She hung up. I spent 6 days deciding what to do. 6 days of barely sleeping, barely eating, canceling meetings because I couldn't focus. 6 days of staring at that LinkedIn message and typing responses I never sent. In the end, I agreed to dinner. Not because I'd made a decision, but because I needed to see him, to see what 20 years of phantom fatherhood had created. We met at a quiet Italian restaurant in Midtown. I arrived early, ordered a water, not wine, not bourbon, just water, and waited. He walked in at exactly 7 p.m. I recognized him immediately, not from his profile picture, but from something deeper. The way he moved, the slight hesitation before approaching strangers. That was Sarah. But the confidence underneath, the squared shoulders that reminded me of myself. Mark Callahan? He asked, extending his hand. I stood, shook it. His grip was firm. Leo, it's good to meet you. Finally, he said, smiling. It was a genuine smile, warm and slightly nervous. I've been wanting to do this for years. Saturday, he ordered a craft beer without hesitation. 21 now, I realized. Old enough to drink, old enough to make his own decisions. I don't even know where to start, he said, laughing. I've imagined this conversation 1,000 times. Me too, I said honestly. Mom told me you were reserved, that you preferred to support me from a distance rather than be directly involved. I get it. Not everyone is cut out for the dad at the soccer game thing. There was no resentment in his voice, just acceptance. But I wanted you to know that it meant everything, he continued. Every card you sent, every check. Mom would read me your birthday messages, and I'd keep them in a box under my bed. You always wrote about working hard, being disciplined, making the most of my potential. That pushed me. When things got hard, and they did, especially at RISD, I'd think about you, about how you were watching, how you expected greatness. My throat was tight. You achieved it. Your mom showed me your portfolio. Your work is incredible. His face lit up. Really? She showed you? She's very proud of you. Robert too. At the mention of Robert's name, something flickered across Leo's expression. Robert's great. He's been there for everything. I know I'm lucky to have him as a stepdad. Stepdad. The word hung in the air between us. But it's not the same, you know, Leo continued, looking down at his beer. He's the one who taught me to throw a baseball and helped me study for chemistry tests. But you're the one who, I don't know how to explain it. You're the one who made me want to be better. You set the bar. I thought about Robert Chin, a man I'd never met. A man who'd spent 20 years raising my biological son, sending him money from his own account, forging my signature on birthday cards, creating an entire fictional relationship all so a little boy could have a father to look up to. "Leo," I said carefully, I need to tell you something." He looked up, and I saw the hope in his eyes, the hope of a son who'd finally found his father, and I made my decision. "I need to tell you," I said slowly, "that I'm sorry." He blinked. "Sorry? For what?" "For not being there, for choosing my career over being present in your life, for making you feel like you had to earn my approval from a distance instead of just having it unconditionally." His eyes got shiny. "You don't need to apologize. I understand. You had your reasons. Maybe. But you deserve better. You deserved a father who showed up, who was there for the soccer games and the school plays. Someone like Robert." "Robert's not," he stopped himself. "Robert's not your biological father," I finished. "But he's been your dad in every way that matters, hasn't he?" Leo was quiet for a long moment. "Yeah," he said finally, "he has." "The truth is," I said, choosing my words carefully, "I made a lot of mistakes when I was younger. I wasn't ready to be a father at 22. Your mother knew that. She made the choice to give you stability, to give you a real family." Robert stepped up. "He's been the father you needed." "But you still supported me," Leo said. "Financially, that whole time." I thought about Robert Chen writing those checks every month, $2,000 for 20 years, nearly $500,000 of his own money sent in my name. "Yes," I said. "I did what I could." It wasn't a lie. Not exactly. The support had been real. The care had been real. The only fiction was whose hand had signed the checks. "I want you to know something," I continued. "Everything your mother told you about me having high expectations, wanting you to excel, that was real, but it wasn't conditional. I'm proud of you, Leo. Not because you lived up to some impossible standard, just because you're you. A good man, a talented artist, someone with integrity." He wiped at his eyes. "Thank you. That means..." "You don't know what that means to me." We talked for 3 more hours. He showed me his portfolio on his tablet, stunning graphic designs, album covers, poster art. He told me about his girlfriend, about his apartment in Portland, about his dreams of starting his own design studio someday. And I listened, asked questions, played the role of the distant but supportive father he believed I was. When we parted ways outside the restaurant, he hugged me. It was brief, slightly awkward, but genuine. "Can we do this again?" he asked. "Maybe video calls? I'd like to stay in touch." "I'd like that too," I said. He walked away, smiling, heading back to his hotel. I stood on the sidewalk watching him go, then pulled out my phone. I didn't call Sarah. I called a number I'd looked up 3 days earlier. Robert Chen answered on the 3rd ring. "Robert, this is Mark Callahan. I think we need to talk." We met for coffee the next morning. Robert Chen was shorter than I expected, soft-spoken, with graying hair and kind eyes. He looked tired. "Thank you for agreeing to meet," I said as we sat down. "I figured this was coming," he replied. "After Leo reached out to you." "Why did you do it?" I asked. "The checks, the cards, all of it." He stirred his coffee slowly, thinking. "When Sarah and I got together, Leo was 4 years old. He was starting to ask questions about his father, where he was, why he wasn't around. Sarah tried to explain it in age-appropriate ways, but you could see it bothering him. Kids at preschool talking about their dads, him wondering why he didn't have one. "So you decided to invent one?" "No." He looked up at me. "I decided to be one. But Leo needed more than just me. He needed to understand his origins, to feel like he came from somewhere. Sarah still had that photo of you. She'd kept it, even though she'd run from the relationship. I asked her about you, who you really were underneath the drinking and the anger. And what did she say? She said you were brilliant, driven, that you had the potential to be extraordinary if you could get out of your own way." He smiled slightly. "I figured that was something a boy could aspire to. So you became me. I became the version of you that could have existed, should have existed. The successful lawyer who loved his son but couldn't be present due to complicated circumstances. It wasn't entirely fiction, was it? You did become successful. You did get out of your own way, eventually." I thought about my life, the decade of sobriety, the therapy, the slow, painful work of becoming someone I could respect. "I stopped drinking 11 years ago," I said quietly. "Got help, built a career I'm actually proud of." "I know," Robert said. "I've been keeping tabs on you, making sure the story we told Leo remained plausible. When you made senior partner, I wrote Leo a card from you, congratulating him on his high school graduation and mentioning my own promotion, keeping the narratives aligned. It was staggering. The level of detail, the commitment. I met him last night," I said. "Leo, we had dinner." Robert's expression didn't change, but I saw tension in his shoulders. "How did it go?" I didn't tell him about the money, about the cards. I let him believe it was all from me. The tension released. "Thank you. Don't thank me. I didn't do it for you." "I know. You did it for him." We sat in silence for a moment. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Why? Why go to such lengths for a child that wasn't yours? You could have just been his stepfather. You didn't have to create this whole elaborate fiction." Robert looked out the window, watching people hurry past on their morning commutes. "I never wanted to be a father," he said finally. "Wasn't sure I'd be any good at it. But then I met Sarah, and she came with this incredible little boy who needed someone to believe in him. And I realized fatherhood isn't about biology. It's about showing up. It's about creating a safe place for a child to grow. But why me? Why use my name, my identity? Because Leo needed to know he came from strength, from intelligence, from potential. Sarah's family, they're wonderful people, but they're working class, practical. She was the first to go to college. I grew up comfortable but not ambitious. We're both steady, reliable people. But Leo had this spark, this drive. He needed to believe. It came from somewhere. So you gave him a mythology. I gave him a foundation, Robert corrected. Yes, it was built on a fiction, but the values were real. The expectations were real. The love was real. Just because I signed your name doesn't mean the sentiment was fake. I thought about that. About Leo's face last night, talking about the cards he'd kept in a box under his bed, about how he'd pushed himself through difficult times by thinking of the father who was watching, who expected greatness. He thinks of you as his stepdad, I said. A good one, but still a step. I know. Robert's voice was heavy. And that's fine. I made my peace with that a long time ago. I didn't do this for recognition. I did it because it was what Leo needed. But you deserve recognition, I said. You raised him. You're his real father. No, Mark. I'm his dad. You're his father. There's a difference. 6 months later, Leo moved to New York. Got a job at a prestigious design firm in Brooklyn. We started having dinner once a month, regular father-son dinners, where we'd talk about work and art and life. He never asked why I'd been absent for 20 years, never demanded explanations or apologies beyond that first night. He seemed content with the relationship we were building now. Robert came to visit twice. Both times he and Leo met for lunch, and Leo would mention it casually at our next dinner. Robert came by. We went to this great Thai place in Queens. Always Robert, never Dad. It bothered me more than I admitted. On the 7th month, I invited both of them to dinner. Leo, Robert, and me. No Sarah, she declined. Said it should be just the men. We met at a steakhouse in Manhattan. Leo arrived first, then Robert, then me. The moment was surreal, the three of us sitting together, this strange triangle of fatherhood. We made small talk through appetizers, work, weather, safe topics. Then Leo looked between us and said, "This is weird, right? The three of us here?" "A little," I admitted. "I've been thinking a lot lately," Leo said slowly. "About family, about what makes someone a father. And I realized something." He turned to Robert. "You taught me to ride a bike. You helped me with my math homework, even though you hated math. You drove me to art classes every Saturday for 6 years. You're the one who stayed up with me when I had nightmares. You taught me how to tie a tie, how to change a tire, how to apologize when I'm wrong." Robert's eyes were shining. "And you," Leo turned to me, "you're the reason I pushed myself. The idea of you, this brilliant, successful man who expected greatness, that drove me." But he paused, looking between us. "I think I've been calling the wrong person Robert all these years." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" Robert asked quietly. "I mean, maybe it's time I started calling you Dad, if that's okay." The coffee shop fell away. The restaurant dissolved. There was only Robert, tears streaming down his face, nodding wordlessly. Leo stood up and hugged him. Really hugged him. The kind of hug that 20 years of being someone's dad earns. When they separated, Leo looked at me. "I don't know what to call you. You're my father, but he's my dad. Is that okay?" I smiled, and it was genuine. That's more than okay. That's the truth. Because it was. Robert had earned the title Dad. I was just the father, the biological origin point, the mythology, the distant star that Leo had navigated by. But Robert was the one who'd been there, in the trenches, in the real moments. We finished dinner, shared a bottle of wine, told stories, and when we parted ways that night, Leo hugged Robert first, then me. "Thanks," he said to me quietly, "for letting him be who he really was, for not taking that away." I hadn't told him the truth about the money, hadn't revealed the fiction, because sometimes the truth isn't about facts, it's about what's real. And what was real was that Robert Chen had been a father to my son when I couldn't be, had loved him, shaped him, guided him. The checks might have been signed with my name, but they'd been sent with Robert's love, and that mattered more than any DNA test ever could. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I took down the photo from my LinkedIn profile, the 22-year-old kid with too long hair and an arrogant smile. I replaced it with a current photo, 45 years old, sober, accomplished, flawed. The real me, not the mythology. Because Leo deserved a real father, even if that father was just the guy who showed up for monthly dinners and tried to make up for 20 years of absence with honesty and presence. And Robert deserved recognition for being what I never was, a dad. I got a text that night from an unknown number. When I opened it, I knew immediately it was from Robert. "Thank you for everything, for understanding, R." I wrote back, "Thank you for raising my son, for being the man I wasn't ready to be. He's extraordinary, and that's because of you." His response came 3 minutes later. "He's extraordinary because he's his own person. We just helped him get there, both of us, in our own ways." Maybe he was right. Maybe fatherhood wasn't either divided by or. Maybe it was both divided by and. The mythology and the daily grind. The inspiration and the execution. The father and the dad. Leo had been raised by both of us, just in very different ways. And somehow, impossibly, that had been enough.